This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. And here we are on November the 26th, 2023, right? The very, very tail end of the day for me. And that is fine because I'm ending the day perfectly here. I got beautiful celebrated Toronto background behind me because, well, that's where I wish I was living. But as things are with rent and everything that we're being screwed on these days, well, haven't been able to make that transition yet. But I'm still doing Python's Paradise, and I am here celebrating. Depends on how you look at this. Some places say this has come out in 78, and some places say it's 79. Either way, we are going to celebrate the 45th anniversary of Up and Smoke, which I have here on Blu-ray, the best of the Cheech and Chong movies, and the very first of the Cheech and Chong movies. And folks, I have one of the participants, if you want to call it,
Willing participant.
willing participants from the movie on the show here. I got the very lovely, very classy Wally Wharton. How do you do, Wally?
Hey, I'm just fine, Greg. It's wonderful to be here in talking to you, but I'm in my own kitchen, oddly enough. So the miracle of Zoom, eh?
Yeah. Did you cook me anything in there?
No, the lab has been shut down for the day, if you know what I mean.
Ah. Well, you know what? It's great to have you on here today, and a special shout out to Tommy Kovac of Splat from the Past to connect us.
He's a
He,
great guy.
yeah, he suggested you, and he he um he seems to have a sense of who I connect well with. So he said I'd have a good time with you, and I was like, you know what? I haven't had anybody from Up and Smoke on here, and I got that on Blu-ray here. So I'm like, absolutely, absolutely, So totally open for that experience, and here we are. I gotta ask, I'd never met anybody, I never met a female named Wally before. So uh tell me how where your name come from.
Well, I'll tell you, it's kind of a long story because, as you know, in the credits, I'm listed as Ann Wharton, which my the name I was born with was Anne Marie Wharton, and
Okay.
I used that name when I first got into the business, which was around the time of Up in Smoke,
Mm-hmm.
and then in between jobs, legitimate TV movie jobs, TV commercials, I became a stripper. And
Mm-hmm.
one day my agent asked me, I got to make sure you don't strip using your real name, do you? And I said, yeah, sure. They call me Annie Fanny. And my agent said, no, you've got to change your name then for your SAG and AFTRA, legitimate roles here. So I thought, well, I've always been Annie. I mean, what am I going to do? So I belonged to a comedy improv group at the time. And so we were kicking around names one night. And one of the members said, how about something with an alliteration? Like Wendy. I said, well, that's my sister's name. So we can't use that. So they said, how about Wally? And because you're kind of curvaceous, it'll be kind of a conversation icebreaker when you go on an interview. How did you get the name Wally? Oh, my parents wanted a boy. So that's how I became Wally Wharton. And years later, I found out that it was like art imitating life, or life imitating art, whatever. I found out my parents really did want a boy. They never wanted a girl. So, oh well.
What? Oh, really?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, I found a letter from my grandfather to my mom right after I was born that said, "Well, Ruthie, we really wanted to get a boy out of you. If you had had a boy, I would have sent you a brand new crisp $10 bill, but you didn't. You just had a girl. We didn't want a girl. Oh, well, guess we'll just have to love her anyway." That was my grandfather. Yeah, it's true. My family, it was my mom's last birthing attempt. So they were praying for a boy, didn't get one. Anyway, I'm Wally Wharton now.
What's wrong with having a girl? Look,
Well,
I
to
I
get,
live in a family of boys. I have two brothers, you know.
oh, wow.
We
My
like
three
we
sons.
Yep. We didn't have any girls in the family, you know, outside mom, you know, and even our pets were always male, you know. I don't like personally I've never wanted kids,
Me
but if
neither.
I had kids, I wouldn't care if it was male or female or not, just as long as they didn't make me a grandparent at an early age, you know.
Yeah,
Like yeah, don't pull that stuff while I'm trying to retire, you know. I've seen that, you know,
that's
but
so funny.
yeah. But
Wow.
nonetheless, I mean, I
But
don't
you
know. I
see, they want a boy to carry on the family name and all that, that sort of tradition, the lineage, I guess. I don't know.
You know what I think?
What?
I think that I thought about this one night. I was like, why take on the guy's name? Like, here's the thing. If I was married and we
Yeah.
had children
Yeah.
and we had one boy and one girl, say,
Uh-huh.
I would ask my wife, I would say, you know what? If it's a boy, he takes on my last name. If it's a girl, takes on your last name.
Oh, that's good. That's a good idea.
You know, like who cares, you know? Like it
Yeah.
doesn't change the fact that it's still my daughter, you know?
Right.
Like
Right.
that's how I think it should be, you know? Like if it's a male, take on the male last name. If it's a female, take on the woman's last name, you know? Like I don't know. Like the whole battle of the sexes thing I never really got because like my supervisor's female and I got no problem uh taking orders from her. I mean, she's good
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've worked with for a lot of females in my day and I never had an issue with that, you know?
Yeah.
I knew like I grew up in a church family. I come from a Christian
Oh.
back and and my I knew somebody that I knew a couple from my church growing up. The husband was a bus driver and
Mm-hmm.
his wife worked at a government office.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that he would often get asked if he was ever insecure about the fact that his wife made more money than him. And he was like, no. Said number one, he's making good money driving a bus. And
Yeah.
number two, you know, their vacations are nice and they're still together.
Great.
You
Great.
know,
Yeah.
like I really I don't get that. If I was married and my wife was making more money than me, I it really wouldn't bother me. You know, as long as we had a good friendship and a good relationship together, that you know,
Yeah.
yeah, I really I don't. So I'm sad to hear that your parents wanted a boy, but you know what? You seem to laugh about it, so I guess you're not holding it against them.
Well, no, of course not. I love my family. I did. My parents are no longer here, uh, naturally. I think all this started with English common law, in
Hmm.
terms of the hierarchy and the structure of the family and what we put importance upon,
Yeah.
about, oh, the male is the breadwinner and then the wife makes the bread, uh literally. I don't know, but it's a huge 1,000-year-old structure, and it's going to take a couple more generations, I think, for everything to, dare I say, equalize or at least normalize in terms of different choices, different structural choices in terms of families and such. It's like, I'm not married. I've been married and divorced 4 times because I believe in finishing what I begin.
Let me guess. You married Cheech twice and Chong twice, right?
No, you see, I got along with them too well to ever consider marrying either one of them. It was always these impossible relationships that
You know what?
that
If I were married, my wife would have to be able to cook because I can't cook for shit.
really, it's easy.
I'm a throw stuff in the microwave kind of guy, you know?
That's funny. Well, I like to cook actually, probably because I don't have to cook for anyone else but myself and my dog, of course. Uh,
Oh,
I,
Skittles is offended hearing that three-letter word. He's got his back turned over there.
oh, really?
Oh, Skittles is some offended hearing that.
Oh,
Skittles is
how
my kitty.
cute. Hi, that's right. You're a cat person.
You know what? My parents were dog people,
Uh-huh.
but we always had a dog and a cat growing up, you know.
Uh-huh.
But my parents were more dog people. Me, I was more a cat person, I guess. And
Uh-huh.
Skittles used to be owned by my parents. My dad passed away April 2022 after 8 years of ALS, and
Oh,
he worked up till he couldn't. You know,
really?
my dad, God bless him, he'd give you the shirt off his back, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and
Mm-hmm.
he was one of the finest men I ever knew, you know, and I
Wow.
was happy to be able to tell him that before he passed.
Great.
But I'll tell you when they I lived in the house I grew up in for 47 and a half years, and I was the last one to leave. I often joke with people, my parents couldn't get rid of me, so they had to move out first. But the fact of the matter is, my grandfather owned a spring water plant.
Oh, wow.
And my father quit working at the telephone company, like Dad worked at the telephone company here for 30 years. And after he
Wow.
got done this, he retired and then went and worked with my grandfather at the water plant. My dad was always working, and
Yeah.
I worked at the water plant for 19 years. And I
Really?
mean, Dad said as long as I need a place to stay, I'm welcome to stay there. So I just stayed there. But
Sure.
you often hear these stories about, they say they have this image of people living in the parents' basement playing video games. Well, I don't play video games, and quite frankly, I did work, and I never moved out until and the reason mom and dad moved into my grandparents' old house because there was less stairs, and
Uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
stayed in the house I grew up in until my younger brother got it cleaned up enough to sell it. So
Oh. Uh-huh.
then I moved into the apartment I'm in right now, and but going back to Skittles, they had an Australian Shepherd, and they took that with them. They were very, very close to it. But
Oh.
Dad said to me, he said that we're gonna let Skittles stay with you so that you have well, the whole thing was Skittles at the time was an outside cat, and they figured that Skittles would
Oh.
try to find his way back to the house. It
Uh-huh.
would have been a long trek for him, but I think what Dad was really saying was, look, you're here by yourself right now, and we know you're close to Skittles. We want Skittles to stay with you,
Sure.
so Skittles is still with me, and
Great.
he doesn't pay any rent. He's yeah, that kitty. I
Well,
don't know.
don't they always say that when you have a cat, uh, you serve that cat. Dogs serve people, but you are beholden to the cat. The cat is the king. I don't know.
Yeah, well, so he thinks. So he thinks. I'll tell you, when I want to have cuddle time and he tries to get away, I grab him and I say, "We're having cuddle time regardless."
Hey, good for you, Greg. Good. You tell that cat. You show that cat, who's
Oh,
boss.
I love Kitty. I love my Skittles. Yep. But
I bet. Oh, that's
yeah,
great. That's great.
yeah. But that's where I feel on it,
Mhm.
But I'm glad you get a good sense of humor about it. I think your parents should be happy that they were able to have a kid at all. So
Yeah, yeah. And they had my sister, and my sister is 10 years older than I am. And so she was all caught up in the whole hippie thing. I'm like the generation afterwards.
hmm
Uh, and so my dad was an aerospace worker, and so my folks were really pretty conservative. And there's my sister, dating the Black Panthers and protesting up at Berkeley and dropping out of San Francisco State and living in Haight Ashbury and the whole thing, and like down with the fuzz, man. And it was odd, kind of ironic, because she was the one who turned me on to Cheech and Chong, like my first year of college. I went to UCLA in the fall of 1973, and she said, "Yeah, you gotta listen to this new comedy duo. I think they're called Cheese and Chang, something like that." And and then I discovered Cheech and Chong, and subsequently, because the
yeah.
the boys in our dormitory, Sproul Hall, where Hugh Hefner used to pick up Barbie Benton after classes a few years
hmm
before myself. The boys would take their dorm room and they would make it split level, so they would have like a smoking den uh, on the upper level of their dorm room. And so we'd climb these rickety little wooden steps up to their smoking den, and then we'd all partake, with the bongs and the quadraphonic stereos, that were all lit up and stuff like that. And then we'd have to get up and go to an 8 o'clock class in the morning. Oh, well, you can do that when you're 18, 19, 20.
Well, there's a lot of like I often find like I don't smoke, let alone smoke pot. I actually, when I got gaslit out of my job earlier this year, I actually went to because it's legal here now, and I
Mm-hmm.
went to see if I could get some gummies, some edibles,
Mm-hmm.
just to take my space out of my depression.
Sure, sure.
So I took some gummies and it didn't do anything to me. It's like
They're just candy.
nothing.
Yeah.
It was just nothing happened. I didn't feel anything or anything like
Yeah.
that. But there's a lot of movies that came out, like not just Cheech and Chong. Like I'm a big fan of The Big Lebowski, which
Oh, yeah.
is a film that follows into that. I love Harold and Kumar. Those
Oh,
are
yeah.
funny.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Oh,
Yep,
yeah.
yep. But I also love our very own Canadian-owned Trailer Park Boys, which I told you about last night.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yep,
I'm gonna have to watch them.
yep. I love the Trailer Park Boys, and I'm very proud of them,
Good.
and yep. But there's a lot of I find pot humor to be funny, but
Yeah. It
but
is.
I can't say I can relate because I've never done it, So there you go.
Really.
Yeah. But um nonetheless, going back, you mentioned you uh you were a stripper earlier in your days. What got you into that?
Money.
Money?
uh, well, oddly enough, you know how sporadic uh, acting work
Well,
can
my
be.
I have a cousin that used to be a stripper, so
Oh,
so I'm not judging you, so because I know what her experience. I never was to a strip bar until 2017 when I first went to Toronto, and
ah,
I assisted Lisa Langlois, actress Lisa Langlois, at Horrorama, a horror film convention.
uh-huh,
The after party was at a strip club,
uh-huh.
and a bunch of us went down, and I was there, Lisa was there, Leslie Donaldson was there, and so was but they had Mink Stoll from Pink Flamingos was singing the Filthy Cabaret there. And Carl Zitier, who was the composer on Black Christmas, was doing the music background. And
Great.
it was kind of yeah, that's where we had the after party, and it was weird for me because we don't have strip bars here in Fredericton anymore. We used to have the North Star, but I was never in there. But I have a cousin that used to strip there.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, nonetheless,
Good money.
well, when I went to this after party, it was interesting because I had this topless shooter girl come up to me,
Yeah.
and I didn't buy any shots off or anything, but I guess word got around that I was from Fredericton, New Brunswick, and this was my first time in Toronto because she came up to me and goes, "So you're from New Brunswick, huh?" And it's kind of weird because you'd think that I would be staring at her naked body, but no, I was actually looking her in the face.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Maybe it's just, maybe I was that desensitized, but I chatted with her for a minute, and it was all good, but that was my only my only thing with a strip club. Although they had a drag queen up there. I've told the story before, and Lisa loves the story. So I'm going to share it with you.
Okay.
They had a drag queen go up there, and he sang in rendition of Lollipop,
Uh-huh.
and he pulled out this tampon out of his pants. And it was actually just a stuffed toy.
Uh-huh.
Even the red blood was actually just fuzz, red stuffed
Uh-huh.
fuzz, and it had a little string on it. So it was basically looked like a stuffed toy you get out of one of those machines, claw
Yeah.
machines.
Yeah.
Stuffed toy, and he whirls it around it on his head, and he lets it loose, and it goes across the crowd, and it comes down, and it hits me right in the right shoulder, and drops at my feet.
Oh my God.
I look at it on the floor, just laying there,
Yeah.
and I look up, and everybody's staring at me. So I
Ball's in
bend
your
down,
court.
and pick it up by the string. I thought Lisa was going to fall off her stool laughing. I had never, to this day, I've known her since 2017. She's been on the show twice, but I've known her in person since 2017. I never have since heard her laugh that much. Even when we were on the subway going to a place to go eat,
Uh-huh.
she was still laughing. And she asked me what I was going to do with this. And I said, well, maybe I'll give it to my cat. I've still got it.
Put a
I've,
squeaker in it.
yeah. But I remember Leslie Donaldson walked by me. She was, of course, in Curtains, and she was with Lisa and Happy Birthday to Me and Deadly Eyes. And she walks by me and she goes, "You're not in Fredericton anymore."
That's right, Dorothy.
Yep. So it was that was my strip club experience. It's my one and only that I've done. I'm not a I had it was a fun experience.
Uh-huh.
But I don't
Uh-huh.
remember a lot of skin. I just remember all the antics.
all the props.
Mm-hmm.
How funny.
You have any funny experiences or even any disturbing experience that you want to share about working as a stripper?
Oh, well, a couple of uh, ironic facts. As I mentioned, it was very lucrative. So I kept stripping for 13 and a half years. Um, Even when I would get TV jobs, like I became a regular Mighty Carson art player on the Johnny Carson show. One of his uh, comic actors that he would utilize from time to time in his crazy character sketches that he would do. And so then that would be taped in the afternoon, but then I would go down to Hawthorne Aviation, or it's right near the airport, LAX, LA International Airport. That's primarily where the main strip joints were back then. So I worked down there and it was slightly out of town. So I didn't work in any of the strip joints in Hollywood where, shall we say, some casting director or whatever could stumble in and see me working as a stripper. I was kind of working out of town, which greatly relieved my agents. You know, the whole idea was to separate those careers. But when I'd be on Johnny Carson, then I would go down for my shift down to the airport after taping. And then come 11:30 at night, when the Tonight Show would start up, Buzz, the manager of the Borderline Saloon, would shut down the entire club. Okay, everybody, the Grace is going to be on TV now. We're going to watch her. She's going to be on here with Johnny Carson. And so everybody was watching, you know, our two little TV monitors for my sketch. So that was kind of when worlds would collide. And it was good because then, you know, all the guys in the bar, oh, wow, we got a TV star dancing nude here. Because it was a nude club. I would only work nude. And I have a whole philosophy around that. So then I would really make even more tips that evening because everyone had fun tipping, you know, the TV star for 5 minutes. So yeah, I chose especially. I was very. I think I had a lot of foresight to only work nude, because if you work in a topless bar that's just topless, you're just going to get the quote unquote tit freaks. You're going to get the drunken bachelor party boys. Hey, this dude's getting married. Hey, come on, sit on his face. You know, that kind of a crowd. If you work in a nude bar, you get the customers who love the whole woman. And they come to get to know the whole woman, and that's what they love, and that's what they tip. Oh, who just walked into the room? Speaking of the whole woman, here's my girl. Here's Ella, the baby bird. Anyway, she's hungry. Nevertheless, that's my dog we're talking about. But yeah,
Don't
so
want to hear
I
that. Oh, Skittles is always sleeping, so he.
I don't know. Can the camera see her? I don't. Here we go. Come here, baby girl. You can see the tail.
Oh, there you go. There you
Here you
go.
are. Oh, where are you? Come on, baby girl. Now, of course, now she's shy. Now she's okay. There. You can see her
There
face.
you go.
Yes. Ow. She needs her nails clipped.
So tell me, how many times did Cheech and Chong go down there and strip and wrap around the poles?
Well, you see, uh, uh, they never came into the clubs down there. I know that they actually met uh, up in Canada at a strip joint. They, I think, wasn't I think Tommy was a bouncer at a strip joint, and that's how he met Richard. And they started hanging out.
Can you just picture them doing the pole dance?
Yeah,
By the way, I
right.
should show off my t-shirt. Look at that. Oops.
Wow, that's great. That's great.
Yeah,
I
gee, with
love
my
it.
back. There you go.
Cute. That's adorable. That's great.
Yeah,
Wow.
I could just see them doing a pole dance.
It's so funny because uh things changed over time in the stripping industry. Like when I started to strip, uh there was alcohol. You could have any kind of mixed drink, even though it was a nude bar. In 1984, right after the Olympics that were held in Los Angeles, they eliminated all the alcohol from strip joints. And it's like I walked into work on a Saturday night and it was like you could shoot a cannon through the place. There was no booze. And so then girls began sneaking in big bottles of vodka to spike the orange juice with. So they took away our liquor license. And so our management told us, well, there's no more booze, but there's this new thing called table dances and lap dances that you can do for extra money, because they were always pushing us to sell drinks. And now that income was no longer there. So they enabled us to get back some of our tips through private dances for guys. And that's how that began here in LA.
Good question. Why did they eliminate that? Like, why? Like, I don't get it. How can you have a bar without liquor?
Well, that's what they want to do, because they said that it was too conducive for solicitation, for prostitution. That's how they justified.
Well, how would they know that unless they were there participating?
Hey, try speaking logic to government bureaucrats. You
Like,
don't get very far.
I heard a comment, I read years ago a comment that I believe it was Bob Dole made. He was just celebrating the movie Independence Day, which I thought was a shitty movie. Like, I'm sorry, but the president of the United States is not getting in an aircraft and flying against aliens. I don't care who it is, you know?
Right.
But nonetheless, um, this guy was just kissing ass on that film. And then he said, then something called striptease is playing in empty theaters everywhere. And I'm like, well, I did see striptease in the theater. And I
Yeah.
gotta say, Demi Moore was easy on the eyes. I will
Yes.
agree that it was a horrible movie. And I was one of the very few people in the theater. So yeah, pretty much clear, near empty. But I can testify to that. How would he know if it's empty theaters?
Right.
You know, like, and quite frankly, between that and Independence Day, I prefer to watch striptease again anyway. And I didn't even like striptease, but watched that over Independence Day. So
Yeah.
take that, Mr. Bob Dole, if you were the one making the comment. But
Right.
hey,
That's so
Demi
funny.
Moore was easy on the eyes. I'm not gonna lie. I
Yeah.
got blood coursing through my veins. I mean, you know, but men are attracted to attractive women. You know, I many of my crushes growing up were always with gorgeous women. My current crush is Emma Stone. I think Emma Stone's
Mhm.
beautiful, but Emma Stone's
Yeah.
also interesting. I like Margot Robbie. I think she's
Hmm.
beautiful, you
Oh,
know?
she is.
Yep.
She is.
But she's also interesting,
Uh-huh.
you
Right.
know?
Very
Like when you
talented.
look at when you look at the different roles they can play, it's more than just looking at them.
Right.
But I mean,
Right.
and Jennifer Connelly is another one that
Hmm.
I find very easy on the eyes,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
but she can also like there's a difference between somebody being easy on the eyes and well, then just look up pictures of them online. But it's another
Yeah,
thing being easy on the eyes and yet you're also interested to see what they're going to do. And that's not necessarily
right,
sexual. It's just,
right.
like,
Performing, it's entertainment. And when I had to do my three songs, the first song, when I would do a set,
hmm.
first song I could be clothed, you know, wearing something sexy, but all the parts were covered. The second number I was topless, and then the third number I was obligated to be nude. But other than that, that was the only structure I had to adhere to. And I did all kinds of odd creative things with within my set. Also, I've had a lot of dance training, ballet training, like we were talking about last night. Um, and so I knew how to use the space. I knew how to work the room, so to speak, and use the whole stage, and use the best of my abilities to entertain, to sell it, to you know bring home the bacon, shall we say. And it was a lot of fun. And after a while, people, the guys that became your customers, they got to know you as a whole person. The guys that really wanted to uh, make your life a lot easier, ka-ching, ka-ching. They knew me and appreciated me as in my totality, not just like a dancing vagina, shall we say. So I made some very good friends, uh had a couple of sugar daddies that took me to Europe and stuff like that. Hey, why not?
Hmm.
And probably uh I learned how to manage my money and how to budget and how to save money really through stripping, because the acting jobs, all of a sudden you get a lot of money at once, and residuals for commercials, you get a lot of money at once. But of course, the tendency is when you get a huge check, it's like, woo, whoopee, I'm going to go out and buy all new clothes and stuff like that. But thanks to stripping, I learned how to save my money. And eventually I bought a house here in LA and everything. And that's where I'm living now. But I think stripping was really instrumental in teaching me how to take care of myself financially, because, hey, that's what a girl's got to do. We all know that, especially if all four marriages crap out, I got to take care of myself. So,
Well, it sounds to me like you had a good time doing this, but did you
oh, yeah.
ever, were there ever any tense moments, like any time where somebody was potentially dangerous, or and if so, how did you handle it?
I'll tell you, uh, the strip joints back in my day were either run by speed freak bikers, the white guys, or black pimps. Okay.
Hmm.
I happened to work in the speed freak biker bars. And one night, and sometimes there would be sort of after parties. We closed at 2 a.m.
Hmm.
But this other dancer, Linda Lou, her boyfriend was this big biker guy that was head of some gang, and he had all kinds of tattoos and a shaved head and everything like that. He was really a tough guy. He was throwing some big party, and uh he told Linda Lou, well, invite Annie. Okay, so she invited me, and I went to the big party, and there are all these biker guys there. Everyone's drinking Jack Daniels and everything like that, and doing, these big old rails of drugs. And I wanted to go home after a few hours. It was like 5
Hmm.
a.m. and I lived up in Westwood, and this was down in Manhattan Beach area of Los Angeles, below LAX. And I had to get home, and they weren't going to let me go home. So they kind of held me there, and then the biker boyfriend got mad at Linda Lou for uh, uh, saying, "Yeah, of course you can go." So we were both in trouble by the bikers, and so they kind of held us hostage for a few hours, and that was kind of uncomfortable. I ended up sneaking out a window with my car keys in my teeth and taken off. So that was a little dicey, I must say. That was probably the scariest experience. There was another time, uh, the owner of our strip joint, uh, he got busted. He had this penthouse around the LAX area, and there was an after party there. I went, and he got busted by the cops. And so all of a sudden we had to get out, geez, it's the cops. We had to get out of there. And so, that was a little scary, shall we say, but I wasn't arrested or anything like that. I just left. But yeah, I'd say Big Mac's big bust was a little frightening. Oddly enough, he'd been a former CHP officer, and he went to the dark side. He became kind of a criminal and owned a bunch of strip joints. And and when he died, he died, I guess, about 20 years ago. All of us girls that had worked for Big Mac in his clubs went to the funeral, and we all got to get up and say something as they were lowering him into the ground. And so I got up and I said, "I'll never forget the last thing Big Mac ever said about me." He turned to one of the waitresses and said, "Tell that bitch to get her ass out on stage." I tearfully sat down. So anyway, so it was kind of an odd clash of worlds, because sometimes I could be involved in like shooting a commercial, or as I said, the Tonight Show during the day. Then at night, I'm kind of in this seedy biker, uh, uh, pimped out atmosphere of the nude bars. But it was fun. I reveled in it because, I come from this upper middle class background. And so it's like, wow, this is grist for the mill. I am really seeing, I'm like in my own film noir kind of, and getting paid for it. So he can't beat that.
It's interesting you mentioned your friend Lou had a boyfriend. This fascinates me because I first heard about this on I believe it was a Howard Stern show. Howard Stern, I think, was interviewing a stripper,
Mm-hmm.
and when she brought up that she had a boyfriend, it fascinates me the mindset of, and it was surprising how many guys um fetishize the fact that their girlfriend or wife strips.
Mm-hmm.
That actually, because I had Raymond Fletcher on earlier this year, who's the author of what they call the Cuckold Bible. I never knew what cuckolding was, and I'm not involved with it,
Uh-huh.
but I found it fascinating. I couldn't believe how many guys uh get sexual gratification on seeing their wife or girlfriend do stuff like this. And
Yeah.
it really, when I heard this on Howard Stern, it was a kind of an eye opener, because it was like, okay, from the point of view of of certain males, it's like their wife or girlfriend about the same as me going to the movie theater and watching, except that Emma Stone and Margot Robbie are not married to me, but I often
Not
joke.
yet, anyway. Not yet.
I often joke and I say they're the best relationship I ever had because I just have to go to the theater whenever they make a movie, support them. They entertain me for a couple hours, then I go home. I don't have to see their bad habits their husbands do.
Right. Exactly.
And plus, only
Exactly.
only my poor cat has to see me naked, which I'm pretty sure would.
Oh. You just haven't met the right girl to nag you yet.
Uh,
Right.
I don't know, but I often joke about that. So yeah, Emma Stone's married right now. I'm like, well, they say, does that bother you? And like, no, because now he sees all of her bad habits. I'm like,
Right.
I'm gonna go see Poor Things this fall or the next month, and I'm gonna be like, yeah, I'm gonna sit back.
Yeah.
Emma, here's your money. Entertain me for a couple hours. Now I go home.
There you go. And you had an encounter with the beautiful feminine ideal, you know, gorgeous in every frame.
hmm No,
Yeah.
but I joke about that. But part of the problem with me is I know what I'm like to live with. There's a reason I have a cat. I can
Yeah.
deal with a cat. But I think it would be real complicated for me in a relationship. But I've got female friends. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, but and nothing like that. Nothing that's been relationship material, but I look around me and like when I hear that you've been married 4 times, I'm like, okay, I'm fine with being single, you know,
Yeah.
And also another thing with me is I remember Jerry Lewis once said, and I've had an issue with him ever since. He said women cannot be funny. And part of the problem with me is I think women are way too funny, which is probably why I'm still single. I'm I'm sorry. I find women way too funny. Yep. Yep.
That's great.
Oh my goodness. That's part of the why I love Emma Stone. I think she's funny.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And of course, Jerry Lewis said this in an era where there was Lucille Ball. So I'm like, she could hold
Yeah.
her own against him easy.
Right. And look at Joan Rivers and
Yep. Oh,
there's all
jeepers. Even now, look at Kate McKinnon. I can't hold a straight face
right.
watching her.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I guess Jerry Lewis comes from that purely chauvinistic kind of era, but also he didn't want to be upstaged. He never did a film with Lucille Ball, did he? No.
Nope.
He wanted to be the funny one at all costs. And so therefore he felt maybe if he could just dismiss an entire gender, there were more roles for him. Hey
Well,
lady.
you know what? I I I think women being funny makes a woman more interesting to watch.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. More unpredictable, more,
hmm
there's a surprise element. Who wants to
Yep.
be around someone boring? Boring isn't funny.
Well, I read a lot of bad reviews on a John Landis movie called The Stupids. And everybody was talking about how horrible this movie is. I finally got to watch it. And I'm sitting here thinking, I don't know what movie they're watching, but I actually laughed at it. Number one, I thought Tom Arnold was funny in it. But
Uh-huh.
what really grabbed me was Jessica Lundy was allowed to be friggin' funny in it. I mean,
Wow.
there was one
Wow. I've
moment,
never seen this.
well, there was one area in the movie where she had to be in disguise.
Uh-huh.
She couldn't be more of a standout in this disguise if she tried.
Wow. How
And
great.
I
I'll
was
have to
able
see
to
it.
laugh at her, and I'm like, way to go, Jessica Lundy. And she's not even a comedian. And I'm like, okay. I love the fact she was allowed to be as funny as
Uh-huh.
Tom Arnold in this
Uh-huh.
movie. Way to go. I like that,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
opposed to just the straight love interest, which can get dull.
That's true. Yeah, if you allow an actor free reign, let him stretch, let them break their typecasting and all that, sometimes there's a lot of talent in there that goes unmined, untouched.
Oh, gee, looking up in smoke. I forget the actress name, the one that was scrunching her face up, making all the weird noises when she
Oh
what was it?
yeah,
Snorted all that baking soda,
right,
thinking it was
right.
cocaine.
Yeah, June Fairchild.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. I thought she was hilarious.
Oh, she
The look on
was.
looking at Tommy Chong's face as she's doing this.
Right,
Like,
right.
yeah, this is the good stuff, and really it was just something on the sideboard, baking soda
Right.
or some shit like
It
that,
was
sugar,
Ajax. It was like
age
Ajax or Comet, you know. She
worked
thought
on
this was,
her.
yeah, exactly. So
But
funny.
when you worked at the strip bar, did you ever see anything where there was a relationship where like where one of the girls that was stripping there, where her boyfriend thought this was sexy?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. As a matter of fact, uh, there was one girl who had been a stripper. She was retired. She was a little older than the rest of us, and
Hmm.
she married this rich guy. But every couple of months, she and her husband would come into the club, and uh, he would pay the manager of the club to allow her to do a set of, the 3-song set on stage like she used to, and she'd bring costumes with her. And he really got off on the other men watching her dance nude and tipping her and getting up close to her and everything like that. He really, really got off on it.
I
So,
find that fascinating.
yeah.
I've never been in that situation, but I find it fascinating, the
Well,
mindset.
yeah. And then the opposite would happen as well. Let's say one of the customers becomes very possessive of a certain stripper.
Hmm.
Then, even though they're still turned on coming to see her work, they would get upset about, oh, but you showed this customer over there too much. It looks like you were turned on by dancing for him rather than me. It would get very complex. It would get very complicated. Um, Now, I met my fourth husband at the Jet Strip, the last club where I worked. But the stripping in front of others, it was never an issue and never any kind of bone of contention, no pun intended, in our relationship. We fell in love, and that was that. And then I got a job writing a screenplay for Penelope Spheris, so I had to quit. And that was another odd thing. When I got that job, uh, writing for Penelope. It was for one of the first HBO specials
Hmm.
called Heavy Metal, Thunder, and Mud. And I wrote all the gags and everything. I was very excited when I got that writing job. So on my last night, I was saying goodbye to everybody and stuff. And there was this customer that I'd known for years, who'd come into several of the clubs where I had worked over the years. Really a nice guy. He would always tip well. He was always a gentleman, very courteous, look you right in the eye. Didn't do anything lascivious. He was very appreciative, intelligent guy. And I told him, I said, oh, guess what? This is my last night. I'm quitting because I got a job writing a screenplay for Penelope Spheris. She's that documentary director, the decline.
Wayne's World.
Yeah, Wayne's. Well, this was before. This was before
I
Wayne's World,
know, but
actually. But yeah, yeah, of that fame. And I told him, I'm quitting because I'm going to be writing a screenplay. And he sat back and he thought about it for a moment. And then he leaned forward and he said, you know, I really didn't want to hear that because I like to think of you as just being here for me, my beautiful, naked ideal created just to entertain me and dance for me. I don't want to think about you in the outside world going on to something else. I just want you to have been created for me in my fantasies. And I thought, whoa, that was very honest. It was very telling.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized at that moment the importance of maybe keeping your lives separate at times and knowing when to tell others about your other life, know when to do it and when not to do it,
Mm-hmm.
so that was a very eye-opening moment, shall we say.
Yeah. I used to do the clubs here. My friends and I would go to the clubs here, and we'd know the DJs and whatnot. I always had a favorite shooter girl. One of them I'm still in touch with,
Oh, uh-huh.
although she's married off now and everything, but anytime she sees me, we're very cordial with each other, and
Uh-huh.
yeah, but I always I never bought, like, I'm not a drinker, but I'd always buy a shot off her, give her uh but there was ones that would only come around you to sell stuff. She
Hmm.
always came around and said hello regardless.
Yeah, yeah, to greet you and
Yep. And she was always great that way.
Mhm.
So yeah, I remember there was a Halloween time, and I was able to do this with her because I'd known her for a while. But I remember there was Halloween. I just shocked the shit out of like two friends I went with because they didn't dress up, but I dressed up as an adult baby, and um and I got my picture taken sitting on her lap.
Cute.
Yeah, I was there. I had a diaper on, except for the fact I wasn't bare leg because I'm not in the mood to get cold. So I
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
had like Betty Boop pajama bottoms on underneath,
Aw.
to keep my legs warm. But my friends couldn't believe I did it, and I did it just for pure shock factor. But
Sure.
I said
Right.
to her, I said, I wanted to get my picture taken sitting on her lap
Hmm.
because it would be so odd. Always is the woman sitting on the guy's lap. And
Yeah.
I never had that mindset, of
Uh-huh.
in this domineering prick,
Uh-huh.
And so I got my picture taken sitting on her lap, and I only
Cute.
did it. I did it only one other year. I did it the year after, and I was on her lap again,
Uh-huh.
and I did it at a couple of other clubs, and a couple other shooter girls let me do it too. It was, but the shooter girls I did that with were ones that were familiar with me. I didn't go up to
Uh-huh.
total strangers,
Yeah. Yeah.
like they knew I wasn't trouble. So,
Uh-huh. Right,
but
right.
but nonetheless, I did that. This was a club, not quite a strip club, but the shooter girls were, their cleavage was showing and all this stuff,
Yeah.
and they looked sexy and whatnot. But
Yeah.
my friends, even when I see them this day, they couldn't believe I did that, and I was like, you know,
That's
but
great.
nonetheless, it was funny, and yeah, I did it, and but but that was experience there, but they didn't care, they just like, sure, sit on my lap.
That's
So I
great.
did. I did. So,
Good for you.
yep, it was a funny moment, and
Break the mold.
well, you know what, out of those three, I lost touch with two of them, but
Mhm.
um, that particular one that I did it 2 years in a row with. Like I don't dress up for Halloween anymore unless when I'm in Toronto. I did whenever I was in Toronto, but I just wore like a red wig thing, you know. I didn't. I only did the adult baby thing those 2 times because
Uh-huh.
it's not exactly a kink or something. I just did it for shock effect.
Uh-huh.
But
Uh-huh.
um, but nonetheless, uh, that's the only time I'd done that, and I remember she was saying, "Don't you want me to sit on your lap?" And then I said, "No, I want to sit on your lap. I'm the one wearing the diaper. I sit on your lap."
Yeah. No
So
one sits in a baby's lap.
anyway, you know,
Funny.
she got a kick out of it, and I still got those
Great.
pictures somewhere here, but
Great.
she didn't care. She was fine with it, but those are my memories, but I haven't been to the clubs in years, you know. I think since the pandemic happened, and
Mhm.
my friends that I used to go with, we probably could go if I contacted them, you know, but we're all just so busy, you know.
Yeah.
So
Right, right.
yeah, yeah,
Real life takes over.
yeah. So those were some of my stories, you know, but those were more harmless, you know, but But nonetheless, we got to talk about Up and Smoke, you know, because I'd like to
Okay.
know, how did you get your role in that?
Well, I'll tell you. First, I did that movie, Cheerleaders Wild Weekend, and one of the girls, one of the other cheerleaders, introduced me to her agent. I didn't have an agent before that. I got Cheerleaders Wild Weekend through a cousin of a college boyfriend. His cousin was this woman, Lucy Fisher, who became a bigwig, I think, at Warner Brothers. And for a while, maybe she was at Universal, I'm not sure. But she was getting in the business and she was in casting at that point. And she knew Jason Williams, who was the male star of Cheerleaders Wild Weekend. And he had done a couple other Bill Osco movies. And so he told her about Cheerleaders Wild Weekend and how they were going to need a whole bunch of cheerleaders. And she knew me from dating her cousin. So she recommended me. And that's how I got that job. So then the cheerleader, her name was Marilyn Joy. She introduced me to her agent, an Australian woman named Nora Sanders. And she was the one who then sent me out to read for Up in Smoke, even though it was a nonverbal role. I was supposed to be just kind of a body, like a blonde, curvaceous Harpo Marx, just maybe reacting to things. But I ended up ad libbing in the film. And they kept the lines in. They liked, Lou Adler liked my ad libs. So it did become kind of a speaking role. Uh, and then I joined the union. But that's how I got Up in Smoke. Nora sent me out to Lou Adler's office, where the record label, Ode Records, where he, masterminded all those record albums. And I met Tommy and Richard, and we kind of improv together a few jokes here and there, and they liked how I interacted with them. And so that's how I got the role. And it was a lot of fun. It was great. So,
Talk about your scenes with them. Any antidotes?
well, there was one day, the makeup guy on our lunch break, he said, "Hey, I've got some PCP." And so me and Zane, we smoked this joint laced with PCP, and I was a little bit, whoa. And we ended up rapping early that day, and I was glad because yeah, it was I was a little bit too stoned. And then one day we were filming up in the Roxy. There was the Roxy Theater where a lot of bands played along the Sunset Strip,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, Tommy's daughter Ray Dawn arrived there with an entourage, and she was like this teen queen of pot. And she took out this joint, and we all sat around a circle and we smoked this joint. And I sat next to her, and the joint would come around, and I was feeling pretty stoned, and I'd go to hand it to her, and every time she reached out for it as it came around, I dropped it right before she was trying to grab it. And she ended up getting kind of mad at me. She goes, I'm sitting somewhere else. And Zane was cracking up. She couldn't believe it. And I wasn't trying to, be awkward, but I was stoned, and I just was. There was there were a lot of funny little moments on that shoot. One day we took a lunch break, and they went out and they got McDonald's for us, so a whole bunch of hamburgers and milkshakes and stuff. So at one point, I took a mouthful of this vanilla milkshake, and I ran after Tommy, and I said, now will you publish my book on feminist poetry? you know Lou just cracked up. He lost it.
Oh yeah, Lou Adler went on. He directed, Ladies and Gentlemen, The Fabulous Stains as well. The beautiful
Yeah.
Diane Lane. She was, I mean, she still looks great, but boy,
Yeah.
she looked stunning back then too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Talk about working with Lou as a director.
Well, he was pretty laid back because uh, Up in Smoke was primarily stringing together a lot of Cheech and Chong's routines that
Mhm.
we heard on the record albums. And
Yeah.
so Lou was kind of the glue, shall we say. I mean, all throughout filming, we didn't even have a title. We didn't even have Up in Smoke yet.
It worked. It was a great title.
Yeah, yeah, but
Hmm.
it didn't, get slapped on there until after we wrapped, strangely enough. It was just called, the working title was The Adventures of Pedro and the Man. So that
They
is,
had to scratch that when Tommy Chong was hitchhiking, dressed in drag.
yeah, right, with the melons,
Holy cow!
huge,
He
yeah,
gets in the vehicle and she's just like, you're not a woman."
yeah, yeah, right.
Holy
Uh,
cow! What was your first hint? You didn't see the beard?
yeah, really, it's really great.
Oh
And
yeah.
there were so many great actors. Of course, Stacy
Oh,
Keach
Stacy
Jr.
Keach
He was,
playing Stadenko.
yeah, he was so funny. And then Edie Adams and Strother Martin. I mean, it's, it's kind of a film historian. I always loved Edie Adams. I remember her from all the Muriel cigar ads on TV, and I was thrilled to be in a movie with her. And historically, that's kind of cool. So there were a lot of great people that did bits in it. Louisa Moritz, who played the cop with that was dealing drugs on the side. She was really talented. She was so much fun.
And
And
Tom Skerritt, the before he did
yeah,
Alien. I mean, this is the guy that
yeah,
captains the alien ship, and here he is
right,
playing this Vietnam doper.
right, with a big birthmark on the
Oh,
side of
gee, he
his
goes all nuts.
face. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many funny moments in this movie, and I
Yeah.
loved it how the characters are introduced because I mean, Tommy Chong. I love that Strother Martins calls him a shit kid.
Yeah, right.
You get a job before sundown, or, or we're shipping you off to the military. Son of a
Right.
bitch. Yeah.
I was always a big threat back then. If a boy didn't behave, you're gonna go to military school.
Yep. And then, of course, you had Tommy Cheech Maring wakes up, sticks his children all around, and he just
Yeah,
have his foot goes into the friggin' bullet.
right.
And he goes in, and he's so stoned and not awake. He's
Yeah,
pissing in the laundry, and then there's
right.
laundry in the toilet.
Yeah.
I thought that joke was funny.
Oh, it was great. It was
Yeah,
great.
but they strang together a lot of funny bits, and I think Up in Smoke was their best film. And
Yeah,
I wasn't a big fan of Still Smoking. I saw a screening of that, and I wasn't a big fan of that one.
I don't know
But
if I've ever seen it.
yeah, but Up in Smoke, I think still holds up really well. And
Yeah,
yeah, I I know they did an animated feature, but I'm like, those two guys are still around. I'm like,
yeah,
I'm wondering why they don't do another movie together with with everything going on with today's technology
yeah.
and stuff. How would two stoners? I mean, now they got cell phones. Now there's the internet. Now there's this, there's that.
The legalization factor.
Like, well, here's the thing. The third Trailer Park Boys movie was called "Don't Legalize It" because Rob Wells, who plays Ricky's whole thing was, "Gee, that'll affect my sales."
Yeah.
And so his whole thing was a road trip to convince the government not to legalize it. Like
That's great.
I love the logic to some of
Yeah,
these. But
yeah.
yeah, but oh, I enjoy this movie. I had a lot of fun with it. I watched it last night, and I just do you have a favorite scene in this outside your own?
Uh, you know, I'll tell you, one of my favorite scenes actually uh happened in their next movie. I think it was Nice Dreams, that I think is
Okay.
so funny. Uh at one point they get a flat tire. Tommy and Richard get a flat tire. And so Tommy gets out of the car and uh tries to flag down these cops. And he says, "Hey, can you pigs help us change this tire?" I thought that was great. You pigs.
One of my favorite jokes that they did um, was and this wasn't in the movie, but it's the one where I was listening to the CD of it. Cheech goes up to this door, he knocks, and hears the voice. Of course, it's Tommy. Goes, "Who is it?" "It's me, Dave.
Yeah.
Here, I got the stuff with me." Waits for a second. Knock, knock, knock. "Who is it?" "It's me, Dave, man. Let me in. I think the cops see me come in here."
Yeah, right.
Silent. Knock, knock, knock. "Who is it?" "It's me, Dave, man. Let me in. I think the cops saw me come in here." "Who?" "Dave, man. Dave. Dave? Yeah, Dave, man. Dave's not here."
Yeah, right. Right.
I'm sorry, that stuff is funny.
It is. It
Yeah,
always will be.
yeah, I love it. And but you got to talk about working with Cheech and Chong because everybody sees them as these stoners, but when I was talking to you on the phone last night, you gave me a vision of them that was entirely different. You said they never came on to you.
Never.
They were never anything less than respectable. Talk
Yeah.
about working with them.
Well, they're both critical thinkers, uh, especially uh, Tommy. Like when we did this prison show together, uh, I drove back with him, And we were in the car for like about 4 hours before we got back down to LA. And we're talking, like philosophy, uh, Nietzsche, all these odd intellectual concepts. And with Richard, he's like a walking history of LA. He's the son of an LAPD officer, and so he has a lot of great stories about growing up the son of a policeman and those kind of pressures, and then look what he ends up doing. Just the juxtaposition of the situations we find ourselves in as entertainers. It's kind of universal amongst entertainers. And so we all had odd stories and adventures to share with each other. And then Zane, of course, Zane Busby, my partner in the movie, she came from the East Coast. And so she has and summer stock, and she had a lot of theater experience and musical experience as well. So she brought a whole nother suitcase filled with adventures in performing to the mix. And the four of us, in between shots, we would just hang out for hours and talk and gab and, talk about our odd stories, people we'd meet along the way here and there. And they're just great people, great people to work with and to know.
Well, you know why Tommy Chong drove you?
Why?
Because he knew that you'd have a better chance on the hitchhiking thing in case you guys broke down.
Yeah.
I mean, he can fool Cheech, but he might not fool the average person. So
There
I
you
know why
go.
he took you.
It's funny because when we went to Folsom was the prison where we were performing that afternoon for all the boys up there. When we all got there, the all the prison guards, they do a search of your vehicle, and they found a roach. They found a little roach with remnants of marijuana in it. And oh my God, we weren't sure if they were even going to let us go, if they were going to let us leave that prison. They were so, upset with us. I know what's this. It was almost like one of the movies come to life. There we were, entertaining for the afternoon, but we were also in trouble.
What became of that?
Nothing. They let us go. But it was a long drive up, and of course, when I got there, I had to use the bathroom, and so they had this big dykey security guard had to follow me into the bathroom, right? And she's standing there like this, and there's no door on the stall, and I'm sitting there. And I couldn't go. She's standing there watching me. I've been holding it for hours. I couldn't go. So I could not go number one until I got home. Boy, it was a long day, Greg. I'm telling you.
I bet.
Yeah.
Jeepers, I get that kind of. I've had that situation before where I've had to go to the washroom, and it's like you're at the urinal and somebody comes beside you, and it's like
Yeah.
now they got these things up where, thank goodness,
Good.
yeah, it's just I don't like taking a piss by anybody either. I certainly wouldn't want somebody watching me shit either. So,
Certainly not. Certainly
oh,
not.
so
Oh man, it was
yeah.
bizarre. That was kind of bizarre.
Did you attend the premiere of Up in Smoke?
Oh yes, yes, I did. It was a lot of fun. I sat next to Zane and her boyfriend, and we watched it, and we kind of you know elbow each other in the ribs every time we flashed across the screen. Oh look, there we are, there we are.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned before this Cheerleaders Wild Weekend. Now I've interviewed Christine DeBelle. Oh man,
Yeah,
I think she was breathtaking, you know?
she's
And
great.
oh yeah. I saw the movie once, but just before I interviewed her. I remember she rode the bus at one point, you know, drove the
Yes.
bus. Talk about working on that film.
Oh man, well, that was my very first film,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought I was making a fortune at $40 a week. A week. Ah, boy, that was a low budget. I'm telling you. But but anyway, it was long hours. Um the girls were a lot of fun. I'd gone to UCLA with several of the girls, and we remained friends uh after shooting. Uh, oh, I was going to tell you the ghost story
Oh
associated
yes.
with the Cheerleaders Wild Weekend. Uh, I had to go back. We were shooting at Gower Studios in Hollywood, and that was right along uh, the east side of Hollywood towards Western, right near Gower Street. It was a very, very old studio. And at one point, I had to run to my dressing room to get something or other, some kind of prop or whatever. And everybody was on the set, and we were shooting really late that night, and it was dark. But I'd forgotten something. So I ran back to my dressing room, and I was looking for it. And all of a sudden, on the door, I hear this boop, 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 boop. And I stopped and I said, "Who is it?" Boom, 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 boom. This happened like 4 times. I opened the door, nobody was there. And then I went back out to the set when I'd gotten my lipstick or whatever. And I said, "All right, okay, who's banging on the dressing room door there trying to scare the shit out of me? Come on." "What?" "We're here. We're waiting for you on the set." "What are you talking about?" "Come on, who did it?" Nobody did it. And that was my one and only encounter with a ghost, as far as I can tell, anyway.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah. And of course, you know, you went on to do Heartbeeps.
yeah,
Of course,
yeah.
for director, I've had Alan Arkush on here 3 times, you know, and
Mhm.
yeah, and his hair's gotten grayer, probably from I think it gets grayer and grayer every time he talks to me. Uh, now, Heartbeeps is an interesting movie because I mean you got Andy Kaufman in it, and
Mhm.
it's something a little different for of course Alan Arkush hadn't quite done Get Crazy at that moment, but I know him best as the director of Rock and Roll High School, Get Crazy,
Right.
but and Sunset Boulevard, or not Sunset Boulevard, Hollywood Boulevard. But he also, you know, did Heartbeat, something a little
Mhm.
different. Um, talk about working on that film.
Well, I'll tell you, Bernadette Peters had to uh, be in makeup like for 4 hours before they could start shooting, because she's supposed to be this robot. And of course, Andy Kaufman is also supposed to be this robot. Very elaborate makeup. Um, my scene was with Andy Kaufman at this big party at the house of Mary Warnoff. So my scene was with Mary Warnoff and Paul Bartel, who are,
Love those two.
yeah, infamous and famous uh, uh, in their own right, many films. And so there was a lot of time in between shots, and we would sit in the dressing room and we would talk for hours. And there was another gal, Irene Forrest, who played one of the robots. She just had to kind of jump into her robot suit, though. She didn't have to wear all the elaborate makeup. And the four of us would sit around and talk into the wee hours of the night for hours and hours. And then they'd shoot a little bit. And and I got to meet Henny Youngman, who was also played one of the robots, and that was great. And Randy Quaid was in that movie as well. It was a great cast.
I love Randy Quaid. I
Oh
don't know
yeah,
what has happened to him since. Have you
I
seen his videos that he's done in the last few years?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him, but I do like Randy Quaid.
Oh yeah, very very talented, very talented.
He's
Oh, look
a
at the
Skittle.
kitty. There's Skittles. Oh, what a beautiful cat.
Skittles? Do you know she has a
Oh,
dog? Skittles is
yeah.
like,
I
oh, that's
I
so
can't
offensive.
pick her up though. She's too heavy
Hear
for
that, Kitty? You hear that? Skittles says you're using me for hits. I
me.
said you're staying here for free, you lazy kitty. You're a lazy kitty.
Oh, beautiful.
Skittles,
Oh, that
you
cat is gorgeous.
Skittles, you want to do some Cheech and Chong, Big Lebowski, Harold and Kumar, Trailer Park Boys stuff with me? Probably work better on you than me, I'll tell you that.
That's that's
Oh.
funny. I used to smoke quite a bit of pot and I
Mhm.
got stoned. When I smoke it now, it doesn't do anything to me. And it's supposed to be stronger now too, but I guess I smoked too much of it when I was young because it doesn't phase me anymore.
No. But
Um,
we're talking about Heartbeeps there
yeah.
and of course Mary Warnov, I know her best as Miss Togar in Rock and Roll High School.
Oh
So
yes, yes.
yeah. So was she one of the ones you stayed up in the A hours and talked to?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
But you don't like she'd be a hit at the conventions if she ever did them, but I guess
Yeah.
she's painting now and very
Yeah.
private, I guess. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah, she
I think
is.
she'd be a hit at the conventions if you ever did them. But she and
Sure.
Paul did a lot of stuff together, you know,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But but nonetheless, Heartbeeps was not a huge financial hit or anything like that, but
True.
it did give you, I guess Andy Kaufman as apparently was willing to give people their money back on the film's box office. I'm like, come on, there's worse movies that come out that year than that. Come on, you know? But talk about working with Andy Kaufman.
Well, Andy was frankly just as odd as you might think he would be. He was very cordial, very nice. He kind of had these starry eyes. Maybe he was just kind of staying in character the whole time. Uh, because like even at the big cast party, you know, he would just kind of stand there with a Coke in his hand. Oh, hello. Hello. Yes. Yes. Nice to meet you. He wasn't real warm. He seemed like kind of out of place wherever he was because I think he was always kind of in his own world.
Hmm.
Um, and as I said, we had that one scene together, which is on YouTube, and people tell me I look like Lady Gaga in that scene, and yeah, I kind of do. It's kind of odd. They go,
That's a
look, it's
compliment, though.
yeah, sure. They go, look, it's Lady Gaga's doppelganger, and I do kind of look like her, kind of odd, but he seemed like a very unique individual and very focused. He was very, very focused on his role, on working and being the robot that he was hired to be. So,
Any Bernadette Peters stories?
no, no. She, look, she was a star. I was not the star. I introduced myself to her and greeted her and always said hello. But she's like, oh, hello. Oh, hello, dear. And she was usually always in the makeup chair, oh, hello, because she had to have all that makeup put on and then taken off and all that. So I didn't get to know her. I do remember it was during the time when she was hot and heavy with Steve Martin. And
I
I
love the
remember,
jerk.
yeah, yeah. I remember him at the Heartbeeps casting party. He was in his white suit and his fedora, and he just like stood in a corner with his hat pulled down, did not socialize with anyone at all. It's kind of
Wow.
strange. Yeah, yeah. He was not the life of the party. But
I thought
I
he was
guess
supposed to be a wild and crazy guy.
right, right. Not so, not so, not that evening anyway. So
Wow. Talk about working with Alan Arkish as a director.
he was great. He was very attentive. Uh, he didn't want to give me line readings, but I tend to be a bit theatrical. And
Hmm.
he would say, okay, give us a little less. Give me just a little less. Okay. Okay, Alan. But he's a terrific director. He really is.
Yeah, I like him. And then of course you went on, you did Last Resort.
Yeah. 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 That was I feel honored to have been in a movie with the late great Phil Hartman and Charles Grodin, and of
Charles
course Zane
Grodin.
Busby directed it and was in it as well.
Hmm.
And it was just one scene. It was just a small, well, two scenes. I had an airplane scene, and I got to see how they film airline interiors, because it's an actual fuselage of an airplane, and then all us actors climb in, and then they somebody moves it around. Then you have to act like the plane is moving, and there's turbulence and stuff like that. That was kind of fun. And then we filmed it on Catalina Island, my big scene at the resort itself, and it was it was a lot of fun because it was like the director of activities was Phil Hartman, and he said, "Okay, everybody, we're going to play a game." And he pointed to me and Charles Grodin. He says, "Okay, on the count of three, you're going to run into the bushes and switch underwear." Yay! It was pretty silly, so we did that, and it was just it was a fun shoot. And boy, it's a long boat ride over to Catalina and back. I'm telling you, because you're freezing and everything on the way home. But it was fun. It was a
Of
lot
course,
of
you
fun.
had Garrett Graham in that as well.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I'd forgotten that. I haven't seen it in a while, I must say. So
Well, after that, there's some titles here I never heard of, but I'm going to ask you about because you got one here called Sex and Dangerous Places. I need to know what that is. I have an image in my head, but you can explain this.
okay. Okay. I'll tell you. Well, you see, in the early 90s, I became a writer for Larry Flint publications for the porn industry. I became a film reviewer. And when the industry found out I had a lot of acting experience, I was often hired to perform some sort of expository role in X-rated films, and Sex and Dangerous Places was one of those. It was a film. Well, in all the films, it would be like, uh, no, I will not give you a blowjob, but there is a girl right over there who will. Or sometimes I would introduce the film, and I'd get to do jokes. I'd get to kind of write a crazy part for myself. And, I never performed sexually in those movies because I reviewed them. It's like Susan Sarandon uh, does not review Angelica Houston. They're both actresses. That would be a conflict of interest. So that's why that's one of the reasons I never performed sexually in any of those movies. I would just do odd, funny cameos and walk-ons and introduce the films and stuff like that. So,
Can't believe it. There's an actor on there named Michael J. Cox.
oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. You worked a lot. Yeah, there was always that play on words, for a lot of the names.
Yeah, and of course you got Naked Scandal, the Kathy Willett
Yeah,
story, and then you
yeah,
have Naked Scandal 2.
yes,
Yep.
yeah. I played a talk show host, kind of like a Sally Jesse Raphael type uh, in those films.
There you go. Um, I've seen I went to the theater. I saw The People versus Larry Flint. What was Larry Flint like?
Well, he was pretty much paralyzed uh, when I was introduced to him. I met him in his solid gold wheelchair on several occasions. I never got to know him personally. Um, but as I said, I had a monthly column in Hustler Erotic Video Guide. I had a sex advice column in Chic magazine. I did short stories for leg show and leg review, and I freelanced also, even for the other magazines at the time, like Adam and Swank. Uh, I for Adam magazine I reviewed sex toys, and I would get this big huge crate of dildos every month from Doc Johnson, and and I'd review them every month, and frankly, I never really used half of them, but but that half I used, woohoo! No, I'm kidding. But so I review sex toys, and as I said, I never got to know Larry Flint real well, but I got to know the art directors and editors of the various LFP publications. He even had fishing magazines, under his masthead. So it wasn't just sex magazines.
Well, maybe he was fishing for girls.
Well, I know he ended up marrying one of his nurses, this gal named
Well, that
Liz.
well, you know what? How convenient.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, she was with him all the time, and
Yep. Why not? Why not?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I gotta ask this because I had a comedian on here a few times. His name's Dale Hilton, and before he was a comedian, he used to work at an escort service. He would drive the escorts to their location, and he'd drive them back. And
Hmm.
one of the questions I asked him, then I got the biggest because he's a comedian, so I wanted to hear if he heard any funny stories,
Uh-huh.
escort stories. And you say, "Oh yeah," and I heard the strangest thing because I'm always fascinated. I mean, let's go back to the cuckolding thing, but I'm fascinated by sexual fetishes.
Uh-huh.
What turns people on and why?
Hmm.
And it's strange. I hate to hear stuff about people harming themselves, you know. I knew a girl that was into cutting herself years ago, and I never understood that.
Yeah.
But Dale Hilton said the strangest story he ever heard was he picked up one of the escorts, and she says, "You'll never believe what this guy paid me to do." And he says, "What?" He says, "He paid me such and such amount of money to beat him with raw chicken." And
Wow.
I'm like, I don't know why there hasn't been a raunchy R-rated comedy about sexual fetishes because it's ripe with friggin' humor.
It's true.
Like you could do like The Hangover with this kind of stuff, you know? It's just
Uh-huh.
ripe with humor and something like that. And I thought that was the funniest thing I'd ever heard. Somebody
Wow. Well, wait a minute. Now, who paid her? The guy or the chicken?
I don't know,
That's
but
what I want to know.
I thought that was hilarious when he told me that. And I was just wondering uh whether it be when you're working as a stripper or even with doing or reviewing some of these movies, what's the
Yeah.
strangest thing you ever witnessed or heard of with regards to this? But and when I say strange, keep it as amusing as possible, like I don't want to hear stories about people cutting themselves, but
Right.
I love hearing something just being topped, and that chicken story to me just hasn't been topped.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That is pretty good. Man, nothing comes to mind immediately because the videos and films that well, they were pretty much, a lot of them were scripted
Hmm?
back then. So it was still just fantasy and a fictional story, now it seems like they just string together a whole bunch of scenes. The internet changed the industry in the way that video also revolutionized the sex industry, and they say that many of our advancements technologically was driven by the porn industry and still is. Uh, uh, I knew several dominatrixes, uh, and a lot of that was just all smoke and mirrors as well. It was just a role they would play. They weren't really into it, but they looked
They
good in
didn't
leather.
they didn't beat people raw chickens.
No, not on their own time, usually. Sometimes, like for the dominatrix women, their boyfriends were actually into it. Their husbands were actually into it, but they themselves really, could take it or leave it. Um, I don't know. It was never my thing, so
You
it was just a
know,
job to be in that industry, really, to write about it.
we have downtown there's a store down there that sells X-rated stuff, and from time to time my friends and I would go in there, and there was one section we'd go to,
Yeah.
and we never rented anything. We just go to look at the titles because there are
Yeah.
some of the the porn videos that are a take on movies.
Uh-huh. Right.
And we
Right.
just went down the aisle and we were just breaking out laughing at like Foreskin Gump, you
Yeah.
know, DF the Mighty Fox, you know, Bonan the Barbarian,
Yeah. Right.
you know,
Right.
oh gee, Patriot Dames, you know,
Yeah.
Saturday Night Beaver, like,
Right. Right.
and or the
Right.
Beaverly Hillbillies. Like we would just
Yes.
go down and we just like what we want, just the images that would come to mind what this must be. And
Yeah.
Foreskin Gump, the tagline was "Skin happens." Uh, I got a big kick out of some of those title. Well, Ass Ventura, Crack Detective.
Right. Uh-huh.
So you know, or A Nightmare on Dyke Street. Like, I
Right.
mean, and somebody gets paid to come up with this shit. Somebody's
Oh
got a
yeah.
lot of downtime,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Sure.
I find it amusing. But nonetheless, when I speak to anybody that's been involved in any way in this stuff, I have to ask them about this stuff because I just find I find the idea, especially of fetishes, I find hilarious. And well, sometimes disturbing, but often I like to hear the hilarious stories,
Yeah,
like that raw
yeah.
chicken story to me, that was great.
It
That
is.
right there should be in a comedy.
It should.
It
It
should be.
should.
But nonetheless, do you have any charities that you're involved with that you want to plug and promote on here, or a web page?
No, I'm a charity.
Yeah, you're a charity. um, do you do you ever get to do the conventions?
I've never done them.
You
No,
would think, I can't believe they haven't done anything with Up in Smoke. You'd think like Cheech and Chong would be a hit at these autograph conventions, you know?
oh yeah, I'm sure they would. I don't have an agent anymore. I do a lot of artwork for a living now, and uh, so I'm not really involved in performing. The last thing I did was one of those afternoon court TV shows about 4 years ago. Uh, that was the last like TV acting thing that I did. Uh, Now I do caricatures and I do color work. Uh, and I've been to a couple of Comic Cons uh, through my last relationship.
Hmm.
Barry Ira Geller, he wrote a script and he hired comic book legend Jack Kirby to do all the artwork for his script. And then he eventually, years and years later, he hired me to color those prints. So I've been involved in doing that. And his script was the original script they used for Argo. And that's where the Argo movie came from,
Okay, yep, I
was
saw that.
his science fiction script that Jack Kirby illustrated, had a big role in. So anyway, I was involved with him until he passed away last year. And as I say, now I do art pieces and caricature work.
You ever do caricatures of Cheech and Chong?
I haven't done them, but I've done me and Zane, and I posted my caricatures of us on Facebook, and my friends told me you better take those down because Paramount owns those images. They own you as those characters. You might get sued. So I took them down.
What a bunch of bullshit, huh?
Well, yeah, but maybe that's the truth. Certainly don't want to get sued. I mean, not for that anyway. There's so many other reasons I could be. No, I'm kidding. But worth going to court for. Anyway, so I took them down. Certainly don't want to be at odds with Paramount.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
but I don't know. I wouldn't mind doing those conventions here and there. But as I say, I don't have an agent, so
What's
uh,
the most unique thing you've ever been asked to sign?
asked to sign.
Yeah, like autograph.
Just like a few of the stills, the lobby cards. Um, I used to get a lot of fan, like fan mail, autograph hounds wanting my autograph. And it got to be kind of overwhelming, Greg. I would get like all these letters every week, and it was taking a lot of my time.
Hmm.
No money, right? So sometimes they would send a self addressed stamped envelope, sometimes they would not. And I thought, I should be charging for this. So the last one I got was a couple years ago. And because, what happens, one autograph hound will then tell his other autograph hound friends, and then you get all their friends mailing stuff to you to sign. And I said, I got to charge $10 an autograph. Because I'm spending a lot of time doing this. After that, I never received a single
Oh, wow.
fan letter with something to autograph inside anymore. It's pretty funny. But I guess a couple of our stills are on Up in Smoke trading cards now. There's a few of those floating around somewhere. So, but I did a lot of them. I did autograph quite a bit of them for many years. Somehow they'd find out, my home address and contact me, and there you go. All of a sudden I'd be getting writer's cramp. No, not really. But
Do you think there's a replica of that big, big, thick joint that they were smoking the car?
probably I maybe they bronzed it by now. I don't know. You know what I'd like to get a hold of? There was a life-size cardboard cutout of me and Zane that was in a theater on 42nd Street back in New York when the movie was first released. And I happened to be back there visiting a boyfriend, and he said, "Oh, there's this cardboard cutout of you in the lobby of such and such a theater." So I went to see it, and I begged the manager to give it to me, to sell it to me, but he wouldn't do it. He said, "No, we got to return this to the studio after the run of your movie here." But I would like to get a hold of that someday. But I have like the movie program. Yeah, I mean, I've got the lobby cards. You know, I, I've got a great picture of I don't know if you can see
Oh, I
it.
can see that.
Yeah, taken in front of Grauman's Chinese Theater.
Oh, wow.
Me and Tommy and Richard and Zane, and of course I put it in a frame. And
Hmm.
of course, I don't know if you can see, I've got I still have my silver shoes,
Yep.
and I have the whole costume, frankly. I've got the shorts and the tank top and, you know, everything else, which that's all I wore. It was just shorts, no bra, the tank top, and the silver shoes. So I've got all that here.
Wow. So
Yeah.
Zane, what's Zane doing these days?
She's involved in charity work. I do know that she was a director for the Golden Girls TV show for
Hmm.
a long time, and now she's involved in a charity for Holocaust survivors and raising money for that. As far as I know, that's all I know that she's involved with these days. I don't know if she's still directing or whatever, but she's very involved in her charity work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. When's the last time that you'd seen her?
Oh, in the early 80s.
Wow.
Yeah, she had a New Year's Eve party. And I remember I went to that. I haven't seen her since, though.
Okay. No, because I was gonna think about seeing if I could get her on here, and talk.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good luck. I mean, tell her hello from me if you get hold of her.
When's the last time you seen Cheech and Chong?
I saw Tommy at, I think it was the 25 or 30-year anniversary of Up in Smoke. There was a screening of it here in the San Fernando Valley, I think at ArcLight, one of the big movie chains here. He was there, and I showed up, and of course we said hello to each other, and I know that Richard is really involved in his Chicano artwork, his museum that he has out in the Riverside area. And he has some fabulous pieces, great collector. And so he's very involved in the history and the lineage and all the artwork that is sprung from that movement here in California.
Well, Cheech has been in quite a few of the Robert Rodriguez movies,
Oh
and
yeah, and in
which
Lodge 49 too, that TV series, Lodge
yeah,
49. Great, great
Tommy
show.
Chong still does a lot of the. He seems to be holding up the pot in well because,
Yeah,
of course, he's in the Evil Bong movies and stuff like that, and so it's still. I got to see if I can. I know Tommy Kovac got Tommy Chong on his show. I'd love to get him on here. You say his son handles that?
yes, Paris Chong.
Paris, as in spelt like Paris Hilton.
I believe so.
Okay, except that this is a male, of course.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna have to do that. I gotta see if I can get him on because um, Tommy Kovac, he was somebody he recommended. So
yeah. Oh
yeah,
yeah. Oh, it'd be a great interview. Yeah,
fellow
great.
Canadian like myself, and
Yep.
yep. But I was so delighted that Tommy put me in touch with you. This has been fantastic. I've had fun having you
Thank
on
you.
here, and I
Me too. Me
definitely,
too.
yeah, and I'm glad that you're checking, like we've connected on Facebook. I'd love to stay in touch with you, and
Please
yeah,
do.
oh yeah, because but Tommy has said all praise about you, and
Oh, that's
when he
very
does,
nice.
yeah, that generally are people that. Like if somebody is not so friendly, he'll give me a heads up on it, but he'll
Yeah.
he'll throw out ideas of guests and
Uh-huh.
and people that he thinks I'm going to gel well with,
Yeah.
and this was great. This was smooth sailings, this
Thank
interview.
you.
So this
This
has
was a
been
lot of
great.
fun. Was.
Yeah, yeah. Y'all ready for Christmas yet?
Oh, I'm ready. I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
Well, I leave the decorating up to Skittles, and which means nothing's going to get done.
It's a state of mind. That's what Christmas is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it's in Cheech and Chong's state of mind?
Well, it depends if they're seeing red and green, A lot of green, more green than red.
Oh, jeepers! We never ever talked about that friggin' van or that truck they had made of weed. What an
Yeah.
interesting idea that was.
Yeah, that was great. That was great. It still exists. I know somebody owns it. I think they're up in the Ventura area, Ventura, California, that owns that van.
Oh my goodness, they got to bring that to some of the cons. I
Yeah,
mean,
really,
yeah,
really.
because a lot of the horror film cons I go to, they'll have vehicles like
Hmm.
the one I was just at in Niagara Falls. They had the vehicle and the station wagon from Halloween, the original Halloween there, and
Wow.
they
Wow.
had the vehicle from Maximum Overdrive was there. I didn't get a shot of that, but but I did with Halloween.
Great.
Um, but they'll have stuff like that.
Hmm.
So I think it'd be a great idea if they got that vehicle there and
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Cheech and Chong back in it.
Yeah, really.
There you go. There you go. They should do a movie with Cheech and Chong, get Jeff Bridges in as Jeffrey Lebowski,
Yeah,
the dude, get Harold and
right.
Kumar, and get the Trailer Park Boys, and
Yeah.
see how that party gels.
Absolutely. They should. And they can
Get
throw me in the mix too. I'm available
absolutely
for hire.
watch Stacy Keach
Yeah.
watch Stacy Keach slowly go mad again.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Oh man, this has been so much fun having you on here. What an honor, and
Thank you.
this has been so much fun. Before I let you go, would you mind doing a plug for my show?
Oh, I don't mind at all. What should I say?
Just
Greg
state,
Gilbert's?
Yep. State your
Wonderful.
name and say you're listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise. If you want to throw in there also that we're celebrating the 45th anniversary of Up in Smoke, you can do that too.
Oh, okay. Okay. Let me see. Hi, this is Wally Wharton. I'm on Greg Gilbert's Python
Paradise.
Paradise.
Yep.
Okay, let me start again. Hi, this is Wally Wharton. I'm here on Greg Gilbert's Python Paradise. And we are celebrating the 45th anniversary of Up in Smoke, in which I appear. And what can I tell you? Keep on smoking. What do I know?
Keep on smoking is right. Unless you're like me and you don't do it and you just talk to your cat to make people
Yeah.
think you do. Yeah, I carry on conversations with my cat, so I'm
Of
not that
course.
far off. Not that far off from it at all.
That's great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And of course, from one night owl to the other, because
Yes,
we're both night owls.
that's right. Woo,
Yes,
woo. We certainly are.
absolutely.
This has been
Yeah,
delightful, Greg.
absolutely. God bless you. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. And
Thank you.
you have yourself a wonderful night.
Okay, keep in touch.
I will. I definitely will.
Great.
I'll have you back some point in the future.
Okay.
Yep.
Nighty night. Bye bye.
Bye bye.